It is a fake spring here in North Carolina. It's 70s this week, so that's good. Gorgeous weather. I'm a little antsy, though. Early wake-up call, 4:45, the kid was up. It's fine. Frustrated at some games last night for a variety of reasons, just some games that weren't played well. There's a stupid finish in the ACC. A lot of marches around the corner. A little irritated. Rob Joyce, Megan Gauer. Welcome to the latest edition of the Gauer Hour. Lot to get to, as always. 3 top 20 games in the last 48 hours. Some surprising Thursday night results outside of those games. First bracket reveal, I think. Is it next week?
Oh, is it? I missed that. Clearly.
I could be wrong. It's in the next 10
That sounds
days.
like it should be next week. So
it was around Valentine's Day last year. We're Valentine's Day's in a week, so hopefully it's sooner than later, which is great because I don't know who the hell wants to host the first 2 rounds of the tournament. Megan, can we start with Wednesday? We'll get to Thursday.
Yeah.
2 very good games on Wednesday. UCLA-Ohio State. The final score not indicative of how that game went. And then K-State, I think one of the more impressive wins maybe of the whole year by anyone over TCU. So wherever you want to start with those 2.
Let's start with UCLA-Ohio State because I was impressed with Ohio State in this game. Like I thought they showed some fight. Like you didn't get necessarily like All-American level Cody McMahon, but you were still in it despite what the final score suggests. And I thought that was a good step forward for this Ohio State team.
Yeah, if you had told me before the game that they would shoot sub 30% and they were minus 16 on the glass, I'd say, yeah, okay, I could see that. I also see them losing by 25 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no. It was a tie game early in the fourth quarter. Then UCLA just kind of shut the valve off and said, we're done here. Held their own on the glass defensively, 69% of the defensive rebound rate. This didn't make enough shots. And I'm with you. Very impressed, even in a double-digit loss by the Buckeyes. And I think there's a reason for confidence. We'll get to the preview because they continue the LA swing this weekend. I think there's reason to be optimistic against USC.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to it eventually, but USC did not have the best of weeks, and or maybe just last weekend. But yeah, I do think there's some reason to be looking at that game and thinking that Ohio State could win it.
Yes, USC did not, and I will take partial blame for that, and I will get to that later. But UCLA furthered my belief. We are on a collision course to UCLA, South Carolina on April 6th in Tampa. And if that's not what we get, something pretty spectacular would have had to happen. I don't even think UCLA played well. Or I think rather Ohio State made the Bruins as uncomfortable as they've been all year. And then I said it before, it's like they just kind of flipped a switch and is like, all right, we're not playing well. That's nice. It's over. We're just going to win. It's fine.
Yeah, I think like there's like not much space left to doubt UCLA at this point, right? Like you're being undefeated on February 7th. Like they didn't play the toughest non-con. They've had plenty of tests since then, and they just every time come up on top, and that's a sign of a great team.
And it's not even the same way. Like yes, Lauren Betts basically every night does what Lauren Betts does. Some games it's more outstanding than others, like 33 points, 14 of 15 against Maryland. She was just merely 19 and 13 on Wednesday against Ohio State. It was Kiki Rice, Gabriela Jaquez in the fourth quarter. The the South Carolina game, it was London Jones who had 5 threes. Like there's just so many different weapons. And in the big games that matter, which not everyone in the country can say, it seems they're getting different production from different people on top of their star shows up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do need ESPN to stop every time they show Notre Dame talking about how Hannah Hidalgo is like the only favorite for National Player of the Year because Lauren Betts exists. But yes, I agreed. I mean, she shows up every single game for this team, and then their depth, they just get so much from different pieces that they need on any given night.
I think this is one of the more fascinating National Player of the Year races. You can't question either's production. It's apples and oranges. Lauren Betts is a 6'6" center, and Hannah Hidalgo is a 5'0" guard. It's as opposite as it gets.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a wrong answer. I don't think there's a right answer. The good news is we have another month to figure it out.
Yeah, and I have no problem with Hidalgo being National Player of the Year, but we can't just say she's the favorite. There's very clear 2 favorites in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, if Hidalgo's an overwhelming favorite, I'll throw I'll throw down a fake $10 bill on Lauren Betts. That's fine. Now, if Lauren Betts is the runaway favorite, I'll throw down a 10 on Hidalgo.
Right.
So UCLA, an impressive home win against Ohio State. And when was the last time UCLA was like truly tested. Like Baylor made it interesting a little bit in
Mhm.
Newark, but they raced out. It was like 17-2, and then they're just kind of in cruise control from there. And you mentioned they've played teams. Is this the first time we've seen UCLA like face adversity in the second half?
Also,
Carolina.
yeah, like in South Carolina, they were up so big at the half they didn't really face much adversity in that game.
Yeah, I mean, so UCLA, like as much as you can learn about an undefeated number one team in the country in early February, like you did.
Yeah.
So nice win for the Bruins. Are you a believer in Kansas State yet, Megan?
I think I have to be. I think I owe them an apology because if you beat TCU without Aokali, there's clearly something there.
Ugly first quarter.
Yeah, ugly game in general too, but yeah.
I mean, after that it was fine. Like it was what 8-8 after one quarter. So the rest of the quarters were better. You got off to a rocky start. So impressed by the defense on Sedona Prince. Without your 6'6" son around, on which your universe rotates, every time Prince gets the ball, double teamed, coming her backs to the basket, coming from behind, make sure that she doesn't have any space to which to breathe, and then we'll let everyone else try to beat us. And the rest of TCU couldn't.
Yep.
Their offense, looked like a team who needed, if not their leading scorer, like their 6'6" forward who could occupy Sedona Prince. Otherwise, she just kind of chilled near the rim and dared anyone to come close. But again, when you don't have your top scorer, your top rebounder, your main defensive presence, and you're able to do that against TCU, who has 2 All-American caliber players plus support, yeah, I'm absolutely a believer.
Yeah, I don't think there's a question at this point. I'll admit that I was wrong because if you're doing that without Aokali, I think you're a very good team. And I mean, Serena Sandell was fantastic, 27 points. I feel like a player that just doesn't get talked about all that much, but I mean, like since her freshman year at Kansas State has just been kind of a steady force for them, and then now stepping up with even more with Lee out here, but. One of those players that doesn't get much national attention, but has been consistently very good.
She was I'm trying to figure out where at a high school she was. Didn't say, if it doesn't highlight her ranking, I don't think she was overly highly rated out of high school. She's a senior now?
Yeah,
senior. 1,500 points in her career. Willed that team to a victory. Not many players in the country, I think, it was at home. TCU wasn't shooting well. Certainly that factors in. But there was just a point in the fourth quarter where it's like, all right, this is my game. It's not Haley Van Lith's game. It's not Sedona Prince's game. It's not, Madison Connor's game. It's my game. And not many people can do that.
Right. Yeah, no, I was really impressed with her. Great performance there. And they got a lot from everyone else too, right? Like, yes, she had 27, but what they got from everyone else was exactly what they needed to.
Do you think they learned from last year? Like the same time last year, Lee missed the better part of a month with an injury, and they won some games. They lost to top 25 teams. Even when she came back, they struggled a little bit down the stretch. But do you think they took last year? It's like, all right, we know how to play without Lee. So I think
I feel
a
like
little bit.
There's a mental piece of that too, right? Like your big star goes down, and if you're not prepared for that, mentally you can just be off for a few games, even if you have the talent. I think the Colorado game maybe a little bit is the case of that. Maybe this team this team, if they can beat TCU, they could beat Colorado without Lee. It takes them a minute to adjust to that, I think. But I think having gone through it before, it makes the mental piece a lot easier because you're like, okay, we've done this before. We know how to do this. And I mean, the year before too, they didn't play at all. So there's players on this team that they're an experienced group. They've been through this song and dance a couple times now.
Going to Colorado isn't much fun. They lost there. West Virginia lost there. Arizona lost there on Wednesday. And, we'll talk about the bubble. Arizona's is basically as bubbly as bubble gets.
Yeah.
And they didn't crack 50 against Colorado on Wednesday. So that's a tough place to play, especially, you're right, when game one without the center of your universe. Kansas State locked to host. Now, we're done here.
They're good. Yeah,
we're good.
That discussion.
All right. Set to Thursday. Tennessee. Did you know that Tennessee hadn't beaten UConn since 2007?
I didn't know. I would really like to stop seeing that graphic. Not because, yes, I get that that's true, but without the context that they didn't play for 13 years, it's really meaningless. In reality, Tennessee has lost 4 games since 2007.
The actual real, like, what's at stake? Fine, mention it once.
Mhm.
What's at stake is that Tennessee has lost 5 games by a combined 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 15 points. That's what's at stake against top 25 competition this year. And they're playing a top 10 team. I think, just mention that at some point.
Right.
On top of, but hey, Tennessee, finally, who hadn't beaten UConn since 2007, finally picks up that signature win they've waited for all year. Good on the Lady Vols.
Yeah, huge for Tennessee. I mean, because of the history there, I feel like maybe there's not a more signature win that Kim Caldwell could have gotten her first year. So, like, I do realize that it carries weight because it's UConn, but at the same time, like, they were going to get one of these eventually, and, like, this is the one they got.
A lot of new fans to women's college basketball the last few years. Tennessee, UConn, some of the old guard, the demographics still skew older. Like, there's a lot of lead up going into the game. Like, Hasty Foot didn't grow up watching Tennessee, UConn. If you watch UConn, Notre Dame. None of these players grew up watching Tennessee, UConn, because as you mentioned, despite not having beaten UConn since 2007, they didn't play for a long time. Picking up that win to that fan base, like, the players might not realize it quite what it means. That's a hell of a signature win for Kim Caldwell, for that fan base, for all the goodwill she's picked up this year. Because remember, there were a lot of question marks when she was hired. She was at Division II Glenville State 2 years ago. She coached 1 year at Marshall. Why is she the coach in Knoxville now? She answered it with a great start. She's solidifying it with a win over UConn. Like, that matters in Knoxville. Even, take away the number 5 ranking, take away the fact that, you throw away all the other losses that you've had this year by 1, 2, 3 points. Beating UConn at Tennessee matters.
Yeah.
Spearman. Exactly. Z Spearman was really, really great. Really great. Kind of like a running back you can't stop in football. They just ran it down UConn's throats.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scored in the final 5 possessions.
Like, no answer for them in the lane.
So what does this do for Tennessee's hosting credentials? Because they are now...
I think they host after this, barring, like, a lot of losses down the stretch here, which, like, I know they have to play SEC, but I think they host at this point. Like, we've talked about the hosting bubble is weak. I mean, you're talking about, like, a West Virginia team that doesn't have a Q1 win that's part of the hosting bubble. I think this win is enough to make you host.
Yeah. They're at LSU on Sunday. They host Alabama. They're at Kentucky. So there's some roadblocks. Yeah. And they host Ole Miss. Some roadblocks here.
I think you probably need to win your Alabama,
So basically sweep everything. Yeah. Even like sweep the games you should. Lose to LSU, lose Kentucky. Don't go one and done in the SEC.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean,
if you beat Kentucky, you're more comfortable. But yeah,
if you're looking at, like, sure, there might be 7. There will probably be 7 losses there, because unless they win the SEC tournament, 7 or 8, and there will be that's probably more losses than any team could possibly host. I think that the committee will look at that and go, look at those losses, because they don't have any inexcusable losses in there. Again, the 5 losses they have right now are combined, 15 points, and 7 of those 15 were South Carolina. Yeah, I think they're hosting, and if they don't host, like, they're a 5 seed.
No one wants that 5 seed.
No one wants that. No one wants to be that 4 seed.
Yeah.
All right. UConn. They missed a bunch of layups. They missed a bunch of threes. They didn't get a single meaningful stop in the final 3 minutes. Other than that, I thought they played great.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What is UConn's identity?
I don't think they have one right now, and I think that's a problem. I think there's a few problems for this team right now, and I think before it was like, oh, no one else is contributing, and, like, it's just Paige and Sarah. I think this team needs Paige Beckers to be great, and Paige Beckers was not great last night. Like, this team is going, it's still Paige Beckers' team, and it's going as far as Paige Beckers takes them. But they also need, they need to find their identity and to be just, like, more competitive. I feel like there was, like, no sense of urgency watching them on the court. Like, I think Gino said after the game that KK Arnold was the most competitive player for them last night, and she absolutely was. She had a sense of urgency. I just feel like you didn't see that from anyone else.
I mean, they're down 4 with 10 seconds left, so the game's over.
Yeah.
They miss a layup or, contested 5-foot jump or whatever. Then the rebound goes out to Beckers and there's 6 seconds left and she's dribbling.
Yeah.
Shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Like that, you're not going to win.
Right. But give yourself the slim chance.
So 6 quad 1 games now this year for UConn. 23% from 3-point range. So they're a good 3-point shooting team until they play someone who matters.
Yeah.
This is they're probably a 3 seed now, right?
Yeah.
If they're a 2 seed, it's because the name on the front of their jersey is UConn. Yeah. For so long, we've heard a litany of excuses, reasons. Well, Paige Becker's hurt. Lazy Fudd's hurt. Well, they've both been healthy. Mm-hmm. And they finished a combined 8 of 25. They got help. KK Arnold was probably their best player. Aubrey Griffin was good off the bench. The fact that we don't have an identity for this team on February 7th, the identity right now is 3 minutes to go in a tight game. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to believe they're going to go to Colonial Life in 10 days. And, I think the goal would be don't get embarrassed right now. Which UConn, I can't even tell you the last time UConn got embarrassed. So I don't think it'll happen because there's too much talent. But if your identity right now is, we just have a lot of talented players, that's not enough.
Right.
Not enough. So UConn lost. Tennessee, nice win. Other Thursday results. Ole Miss, Oklahoma was a good game. You'll be shocked that Oklahoma turned it over 30 some odd or 20 some odd times. And then they didn't in the fourth quarter, and they outscored them by 12 and won the game. Takeaways from Oklahoma, Ole Miss.
I didn't watch a ton of this one because I did watch UConn, Tennessee, which is at the same time. And
then I had to turn on LSU, Missouri right after that game ended for 10 minutes.
LSU needs to stop playing with its food so much. But yeah. And so, props to Oklahoma for finding their way out. I think my take on them just continues to be the same. They've been able to win these games, but you're not going to compete with the top tier turning the ball over 30-something times. You can't. So that's their identity at this point, right? They do it every game. It's the turnovers are a huge problem.
Yeah, 26 of them. They just ran into a team. Ole Miss, they're better than they were last year. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. They were 0 of 12 from 3 last night. They're very tough to play. They're very physical. You're never going to beat Oklahoma if you go 0 of 12 from 3. No. And philosophically, Coach Yo, that program was bad when Coach Yo got there. If you're going to be the bully in a conference with South Carolina, Texas, LSU, even in Oklahoma now, that's just hard to do when you're not as talented as those teams and they're not afraid of you. Yeah. You can get one. They challenged Texas. They probably should have won that game. It's almost like there's a ceiling with Ole Miss until they just get more talent. And it's coming. She hits the portal hard. She recruits well. There's just another level that Ole Miss isn't quite yet at, I don't think.
Yeah, I think until they are able to bring in some kind of elite scorer, either through the portal or through recruiting, this is kind of their ceiling. Like we've talked about, they're going to be good. They're going to be a tough out every night. You're not going to roll over and beat Ole Miss, but at the same time, to get the big wins, the signature wins, to be competing for the top of the SEC, which obviously is the hardest league, I would say, in the country, pretty much to be competing to be a top of at the moment. You need someone that can score the basketball.
And honestly, if they just had KK Deans is okay. If they had even a Jerkayla Jordan, someone who can just go out and get you 30 on a given night, I think that would just take them to a whole other stratosphere. Staying in the SEC, speaking of shooting the ball, how about the rootin' tootin' 3-point shooting Texas Longhorns? 9 threes in a game. The same game.
That is something. If Texas can continue that, there's something there.
Nice win over Vanderbilt. Commodores, I don't want to say come back down to earth, just the SEC schedule has, they're ranked great. They're going to fall out of the rankings. Tough, not entirely competitive losses, but you certainly don't go into a game against Texas going, all right, they're going to make 9 threes.
Right.
Yeah, they play South Carolina Sunday. I think this is if you're going to make 9 threes in a game and you're Texas, heck of a time to do it, leading into a home game against South Carolina, a team that you feel like I know they lost by like 17. You got to feel like that one got away.
Yeah.
I feel like that confidence got to be riding high.
Yeah, I think that this is a good lead up to that for them. I think, seeing the ball go through the hoop on the threes, getting a good win, right? Like, this isn't a South Carolina win, but it's a good win and kind of riding that into a home game against South Carolina. I feel like that's when you want to get back, and playing a good game before that is going to help your confidence to go into that one and try to get a win.
Yes. So your upper echelon SEC teams, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Texas, South Carolina took care of business. LSU took 30 minutes before they pulled away, but took care of business against Missouri. ACC. Wide variety of results last night. I want to start with Louisville. What do you make of the Cardinals? Nice win over Cal. Louisville's quietly, like, they had a tough, very, very tough, about as tough a non-conference as anyone had in the country.
Yeah.
Took beatings. They're a young team for the most part. Feels like they're just kind of hanging there. Hanging around. It's like a classic Jeff Walls team.
I feel like we say this every year, even like, especially the last few years where they've kind of had young talent, different talent, and it's like the beginning of the season, they still play this tough schedule, and it's like, oof, they lose a bunch of games. But they clearly learn from that, and like, we all know Jeff Walls is a good coach, and it comes through every year, because come March, it's like there's some 7 seed, 8 seed that you don't really want them as your 7 seed, 6 seed, whatever seed they're going to be. It does feel like they've made good strides forward. That said, like, I don't really know what to make of like anyone in the ACC beyond Notre Dame, because it's up, down, and in every other direction.
No, Louisville is now 16-7. They've played an admittedly soft part of the schedule. In the ACC, they lost by 30 to NC State. That was right in the midst of, they blew a big lead to Oklahoma. They got boat raced by UConn and Brooklyn. They lost by 30 to NC State. Since then, lost at Virginia Tech. That's fine. Hung around with Notre Dame. Lost by 16. The Irish pulled away in the second half. Went over Cal. We're going to learn a lot more about them. They closed the regular season. They play Stanford Sunday. And then at Florida State, at Duke, host North Carolina, home to Clemson, at Notre Dame. That's a gauntlet for your final 5. Yeah. How safe at 16-7? Because if you're losing 1, 2, like, if you pick up 5 more losses, including the ACC tournament, like, one of those wins would go a long way, right?
Yeah. I think they can't pick up 5. You pick up 4, you're probably safe. We've talked about, too, like, the bubble being, I think, kind of soft, too. And I don't know. I think they're probably fine, as long as they don't lose all of the games that they could lose.
Sure. They honestly, outside of the UConn game, and the NC State game, none of these margins have been terrible. They don't have any bad losses. UCLA neutral, at Kentucky, overtime? I think that was overtime.
Yep, that was overtime one, yep.
Oklahoma, UConn, NC State, Virginia Tech, at Virginia Tech, Notre Dame. Those are all
no bad losses.
Acceptable losses.
Q1, Q2, yeah, totally fine.
Yeah, if you're looking for like a 6 seed to go to the Sweet 16, I don't know if I'd put Louisville there, but they're in the conversation, or like a 7 seed. Megan said a 6 seed or worse is going to make the Final Four this year back in the second week of the season. So,
it still happened. Who knows?
I also said Ohio. My hot take was Ohio State would win the Big Ten, and for 3 quarters, I was like, "Ooh."
And then you're like, "No, never mind."
Cal, I know they're ranked. They're so reliant on the 3 ball. Like, there are teams that are reliant on the threes. Like, Tennessee's reliant on threes, but they also have the ability to go, "Oh, we missed that. That's fine. We just grab the offensive rebound and lay it in." Cal, sure, they're going to get someone on a certain night, but when over a third of your points come from deep and you don't really have a second option, it's too volatile for me.
Yeah. And I think that's why we see a lot of the results we see from them, right? Like, you can win the big ones, but you can also lose them.
Yeah, they're in the tournament. What's their best win is Alabama. That's a good win. NC State. All right, so they have some good wins. They've also lost to Louisville's Clemson. Yeah, they lost at Clemson by double digits. That they have that kind of loss in them where, like, Clemson isn't a terrible team. They're not a tournament team though. So just they're like a step below Florida State in that they're not as talented and they're still a little volatile. Even Florida State, like, they're starting to figure it out. I like Florida State. Did you by chance see the end of Georgia Tech SMU last night?
I did not, but I did read a little bit about it on Twitter.
Oh, it was magical. First of all, Georgia Tech nearly took a Q4 loss at home.
Yeah.
Their hosting resume isn't great. That'll just put the nail in the coffin. So it's tied in the final seconds. SMU with the ball. They miss. Looks like we're going to overtime. Foul called on the rebound, 93.9 feet from the other basket on SMU. If they didn't blow the whistle, like no one would have cared. No one would have known. Probably a foul, but like not obvious. Puts them in the bonus. Georgia Tech goes 90 feet the other way, makes 2 free throws. Oh, the game's over. Fine. 1.2 on the clock. SMU advances the ball. 1.2 seconds. Georgia Tech just like bowls over their best player. Just annihilates them. Puts them at the free throw line. She goes 1 for 2. She makes the second. Advance the ball. There's 0.6 seconds left. And Georgia Tech has the ball. Just roll the ball on the ground, throw it in the air, do literally anything.
Right.
5-second violation.
Oh my God.
SMU gets the ball. It had 0.6 seconds to go 60 feet, and they got a shot off, but wasn't a good one. But like, I love it. It was great. It took like 10 minutes for a game that if they just didn't blow the first whistle, we'd have gone to overtime and like no one would have thought twice about it.
Yeah.
Instead, Georgia Tech, congrats. Are the Jackets? Why not them to host? I know they almost took a Q4 loss last night. Their net hasn't updated yet this morning. Actually, let me hit refresh. Oh, it's updated, baby. They fell from 24 to 25. 1 Q1 win. No Q3 or Q4 losses. What are they looking like?
Yeah, I think the 1 Q1 win is what's hurting them there. I think we've got a lot of teams above them that just the number of Q1 wins like is gonna keep them ahead of them. Even though there's teams that have more losses, right? Like Georgia Tech 1 and 3 in Q4, but like I'm still gonna take like a North Carolina at 4 and 4 in Q1 over that.
How is UConn second in the net?
Because they beat all the Big East teams by like 45 points. And actually, like their offensive rating is like insane.
Yeah,
I know. It's just except for when they play good teams, and then the offense sucks.
Anyways, I got sidetracked when I hit refresh. If you're looking at that, like you're now that Kansas State is locked, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're looking at like 10 locks to host. South Carolina, UConn, Texas, UCLA, Notre Dame, USC, K-State, Duke, LSU, TCU, probably a lock still, right? They're 21-3.
Yeah, probably.
Beyond that, I'm looking at Tennessee moved up to 11. 11 through, I don't know, Georgia Tech's 25th, Maryland's 24th. Like 11 through 25 for 6 spots.
Yeah.
Let's roll those dice, see what comes out, and it's probably a right answer.
Yeah.
You know what we'll say? Maryland needed a game like last night. They beat the heck out of Oregon in Eugene, where the Ducks have been very good this year. Coming off that Sunday loss to Illinois, I don't think anyone needed just not a statement win, but like Maryland needed to just beat up someone.
Yeah. Yeah, they needed to get back in the win column for sure.
Yeah, up 10 after 1, up 17 at halftime. Sarah Tibiasu, 26 points. Kayleen Schmeichel, a little back on track, 21 points. Maryland, the metrics don't love them. I mean, they've hit a bit of a swoon.
Mm-hmm. I
expect them to host. A win over Oregon will boost that, even though the Ducks have come off back-to-back bad losses now. Yeah, Maryland, I think it's not really a game worth talking about, and that's probably the best thing that could have happened to this Maryland team at this point in time.
Yeah, exactly.
One other Thursday result that was on national television was hard to miss. Not even what Notre Dame did to Stanford. It's just, boy, what's happened to Stanford is sad.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any game analysis. They lost by 49 points and scored 47. But, like, their coach retired. Their Hall of Fame coach retired. In the short term, their best player this year hits the portal. Their second best player was the number 2 pick in the draft. In the long term, your Hall of Fame coach retired. Because of your average football team, you're traveling across the country. It's a very hard place to get into. Like, how does this get better?
Yeah, I don't think it does. This feels like one of the things that is going to be an unfortunate casualty of this ridiculous conference realignment that I think they should reevaluate, quite frankly, because like it benefits no one outside of football. Just let football do its own thing. We don't need to all do the same thing.
Right. Like Stanford's still going to win the Directors' Cup every year because all their Olympic sports, like they're still probably going to win every national title in sports that you don't watch, frankly.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah.
really like the super non-revenue sports.
Yeah. Agreed. But I still feel bad for the students playing in those sports that like you're not like they're students too at a school that is very hard academically, and you're not traveling to across the country sometimes multiple times a week. Like I think basketball teams got really real short end of this, like because football plays once a week, and like okay, so you have to
I
go
mean,
across the country every other week with big what, but like for a basketball team, it's 2-3 games a week sometimes.
yeah, I mean, you're gone for 5 days.
Right.
If you play Thursday, ACC plays Thursday, Sunday. So you're getting into Winston-Salem on a Wednesday. You're playing Wake Forest on Thursday. You're driving a bus to play Duke on Sunday, and then you're flying home. So you're going Wednesday to basically Monday morning.
Yeah.
Multiple times a year. Stanford softball is good. Stanford baseball is good. ACC baseball just changed. They used to play, you were guaranteed 2 games called pool play. Well, they just announced this week they're going to a single elimination. You want to fly to Durham to play 1 baseball game and fly home? I mean, it's pressure to, it's real good reason to go out and win. Make it worth your while, but like
it's crazy. It's a disservice to all of these student athletes that are on any team that are not the football team.
Right. And Stanford, you mentioned it, the unique position. Imagine you're Kate Pay. Women's basketball's a little easier. I think, like historically, there's better students. Hey, it's already hard to get into my school. But if you're going up against, it's hard to get into Vanderbilt. It's hard to get into Duke. It's hard to get into a lot of places. Hey, come to Stanford, this elite academic institution where you're on a plane every 3rd day, where, Shea Ralph can come in and go, Vanderbilt's also an elite academic institution. And we play in the SEC, and we're good too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not anyone's fault within the women's basketball program at Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a casualty. Like, they're not going to make the tournament this year. They're 11-11. And I don't see how on earth it gets better. Like, maybe they have a year where they're like Cal, where they're, you're in and out of the rankings. But like, if they went from top 5 program in the sport to, for lack of a better term, irrelevancy in a year. It's just sad.
Yep.
Yeah. Notre Dame's good at basketball. Speaking of the ACC, maybe the best game of the week came Monday. NC State beat Duke. I thought it was a great game. NC State, they've convinced me. I'm as high on NC State as I've been all year, which that's not saying much. But I am high on them right now.
No, they seem to be figuring it out, I think. Another team like kind of like Louisville, like played a tough schedule at the start, and like especially coming off of like a Final Four run, right? Like expectations were sky high. But they've slowly just been like creeping up there, picking up big wins, maybe not getting a ton of attention, but they're a much better team than they were in November.
I mean, when you have someone like an Isaiah James who can explode for 36 and you get 28 from Brooks and Rivers, that hides so much of your deficiencies in the front court. And how about Lorena Awu? 50 some odd points the entire year. She only finished with 8. If you look at the box score, you would not look twice at what Lorena Awu did. If you didn't watch, they were a monster 8 points. Like that's all this team needs when the guards are playing like that. Just a little boost. And it feels like 4 points when she makes a layup almost.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They put up 57.5 on Duke.
That's
We hadn't allowed 57 in a whole damn game since January 2nd. Like North Carolina played 45 minutes and put up 53. Duke rebounded last night with a win over Clemson. I don't take much away from the loss for Duke. Like Reagan Richardson was just a nightmare game. Played 9 minutes, fouled out. Ashlyn Jackson was very good. Tana Mare was phenomenal. Like if they make their free throws, they might win. I don't take anything away from the loss for Duke. I still think they're pretty good team.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Any other midweek results? I didn't notice any. I do have some takeaways from Sunday that we can hit on quickly. I thought it was a great weekend for middle of the pack Big Ten teams. Obviously, Iowa over USC, but Illinois over Maryland. Michigan beat the snot out of Oregon, who was coming off a win over Michigan State. So all of a sudden, like we're talking all these bubble teams, now you're looking at a scenario where maybe the committee had to parse through like 5 Big Ten resumes and pick 3 or 4. Now they're going to pick all 5, and now you just got to figure out the puzzle of like, how on earth do you seed these teams within the rigors of the bracket? Because right now, like the 8-9 seeds are a bunch of Big Ten teams and like Mississippi State.
Yeah, they're giving me nightmares when I try to make an actual bracket because you're like they're not supposed to play each other, but you're like at some point one of these two teams are gonna have to play each other in the first round. I don't know, like you can only move them so much.
Obviously, no more impactful win than Iowa over USC. Where's this been? I was on that bandwagon for like 2 months. I jumped off, and this is how I get repaid with their best game of the year.
Yeah, I guess something about Caitlin Clark being in attendance motivated them to play like the Iowa of old.
I mean, it wasn't even necessarily the Iowa of old because
Yeah.
like the defense,
Yeah.
USC was just nothing for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Also, about this time last year, I said Iowa will beat Nebraska. There's your analysis. Nebraska lost. Well, last week, it's like, oh, it's sold out. They're retiring Caitlin Clark's number. That's great. They also have to play the game. And then I dismissed it, and that was my analysis. So on the games I put very little effort into, just
like chaos.
throw the mortgage for the month on the other team because I'll take the blame for USC. What were your takeaways though from USC? I feel like they've showed cracks in the foundation, and I'm not saying that the bottom has fallen out by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like this has been coming.
Yeah, I think it's been coming too. I think we've seen them struggle at times and stretches. I still go back to like what we would say about them in the beginning of the season. Like it's still a young team, right? Like Juju's a sophomore now. We've got Kiki, who's an experienced player, but there's a lot of freshmen on this roster, and like they're just still figuring things out, and that's fine. The team will probably be better next year than it is this year. It's still really good this year. I do think this was like a blow for USC holding on to that final 1 seed. I think that's very much up in the air now.
Was it a 3-horse race? UCLA, or no, I'm sorry, Texas, USC, and would you throw K-State in that mix?
I don't know that K-State's going to have the wins.
That's fair.
To make the case. I just think because of the Big 12, the way it is, I don't think they have, yes, the TCU win is good. I don't think it's going to compete with some of the wins on UCLA or USC and in Texas's roster. Though that said, if USC goes and loses 2 to UCLA and Texas gets blown out by South Carolina again, I don't know, probably have to reevaluate.
Sure. Illinois over Maryland, quickly. You mentioned Serena Sundell, just someone that an upperclassman who's wildly underappreciated. Kendall Bostic of Illinois is the best player in the country that you know nothing about. I've said it a couple of times this year. She's just brings her lunch pail, walks away with a double-double, and Illinois is quietly 17-5, and they suffered 2 season-ending injuries to 2 double-digit scores in the same week, and they've figured it out. And now they're a team that, I don't know, they'll probably be ranked. Are they ranked this week?
I don't know. Honestly, don't pay much attention to the people.
Neither do I. But either way, they will. If they don't, they will soon have a number next to their name. And you're going to look at your bracket, and they might be the 5 seed or 6 seed you know the least about. This is a very good team in the middle of the Big Ten. They're not upper echelon Big Ten, but they are very, very good NCAA tournament Big Ten team with someone who, again, because there's Lauren Betts, because there's Kiki Iriafen, she's probably an all Big Ten 2nd or 3rd teamer. Kendall Bostic, I'm telling you, she's the real deal. Kentucky over Georgia, Oklahoma, Georgia, Amore. Very good Sunday.
Yes.
You're getting, when you get that Georgia Amore, it's kind of like what I said about Isaiah James and NC State. There are a lot of flaws with Kentucky. It's hidden if your best player puts up 43 with 8 assists.
Yep.
Yeah. I think we were both down on Kentucky 2 weeks ago. They still have a gauntlet of a schedule to come. I'm a lot more of a believer if Amore's playing like this, because that wasn't a one-off of 43 points, right. But she's been playing very well the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm reserving judgment until I see what happens in the next couple of weeks here with the gauntlet that they have coming. I still feel like there's something missing and that they're flying higher than they actually are at the moment, but I think they're going to come down to earth a little bit in the next few weeks.
Didn't play last night. I know they have a heck of a schedule coming up. They don't play Sunday. That means they must play Monday at Ole Miss. Boy, that's gonna be a tough 40 minutes with 5 players. Yeah, then hosting Texas against Georgia, Missouri, so they get a little bit of a respite, and then close LSU, Tennessee at home, at South Carolina, going into the SEC tournament. So maybe hold your Kentucky stock for a few more weeks.
Yeah.
One more impactful result happened a week ago now. Talk to me about what Columbia over Harvard means.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be the end of two-bit Ivy, but honestly, the bubble is so weak right now that I don't actually think it's the end of two-bit Ivy. I think it's the change of who gets in off the bubble right now. I had Columbia in the field this week after that win. I think they've got a Q1 win or two. Like, they've got enough of a resume to go in right now. That's assuming that Princeton is the auto qualifier. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is hard to say until you know who the auto qualifier is. I think it's bad news for Harvard, but at the same time, I think we're looking at a bubble that is not that strong. So, like, I don't think two-bit Ivy is dead.
No, Harvard's still top 40 in the net. They do have a Q3 loss, and fair or not fair, that will be weighed more heavily because they just lack the upper end of their resume more than most. Columbia's 44th in the net, 3 Q1, Q2 wins, no losses, quad 3, quad 4. I mean, yeah, the opportunity's there. You got to hope they both win out and then meet in the Ivy championship game, and I don't know, we can reevaluate the resumes then and see who the Ivy would probably prefer to win to get the other as the at-large.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's a shot for it still. I don't think it's dead.
So maybe two-bit Ivy. We're going to talk A10 later. It's like a big game on Sunday, but Saturday, USC-Ohio State's the big game tomorrow. Mentioned at the top of the show. I like the Buckeyes' chances here, especially I already like their chances a lot more than I did at UCLA. I like them even more after what I saw Wednesday in the loss to the Bruins.
Yeah. Sorry. Did you say Ohio State, USC?
Yes.
I'm looking at the paper and it says USC-UCLA, and I got confused.
Oh, that's my bad. Yeah, a little behind inside baseball. Yeah, I have a Google Doc, and I just wrote, hey, right there, USC-UCLA, Ohio State.
Okay.
Yes, I like the Buckeyes' chances a lot more than I did against the Bruins on Wednesday.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yep, agreed. No, I do think like we said, I was really impressed with Ohio State versus with UCLA, and then I do think we've seen the cracks in the USC. This is a easier opponent for Ohio State than UCLA was. So I'm interested to see if the Buckeyes can get a big win here.
You have this is Juju's coming off an inefficient game against Iowa, 27 points, 22 shots, and that's including she was 10 of 11 from the free throw line. This is setting up to be the bad stereotypical Juju game, where she gets 27 points on 22 shots, but she turns it over 7 times. If she doesn't do that, USC, I think, is probably fine.
Yeah.
She also didn't get help on Sunday. You got 5 combined from Rhea Marshall and Talia von Oelhoffen, who combine typically for 14, 15 a game. They can obviously shoot the ball better and not turn it over. But I think if they can disrupt Juju, which she more than has that in her locker, I think Ohio State is going to win.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go that far because I also feel like USC coming off a loss to Iowa, I don't know, mentally just probably trying to not drop another one here. But I do agree that I don't know that this USC team is set up great to handle the Ohio State press, right? Like you said, Juju turnover prone for sure.
She's better this year, but she is turnover prone.
Yeah. I mean, you have Talia von Oelhoffen, but beyond that, not a ton of experience in the backcourt. You've got freshmen. Freshmen can be easily rattled. It's not something you've seen before. There's definitely a path for Ohio State winning this. There's also the path where they break the press and you just feed Rhea Marshall and Kiki Arifa in the post, and it's over pretty quick.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely. You're right. USC probably wins this game 65% of the time.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I'm gonna pick Ohio State. Why not? The weekly spin the roulette and see which Oklahoma State spits out because they're playing Kansas State tomorrow. Oklahoma State. I don't know what to make of them. It's mid-February.
I wouldn't want to see them in the tournament because, God forbid, they pull out the version that's the best version.
Lose at Houston at the quad 4 loss. They beat TCU. Then they score 37 in a 40-minute game at West Virginia. They don't even crack 40, let alone 50. I got nothing. I don't know.
I don't know what to make of this team at all.
They won against Kansas State. Sure, why not? They lost by 50. Yeah, sure, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, they lost by I don't know. Yeah, whatever.
Any of those results are viable options.
Yes. Give me whatever result you feel like giving me, and I will gladly say, yep, sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I'd like to see him in the tournament if I were an opponent. Why not? Again, just like playing with fire.
Yeah.
Sunday, round 2, Texas, South Carolina. I want to see the adjustments Texas made. Like does Texas need to make adjustments outside of put the ball in the little round cylinder?
Yeah, like we talked about, like the final score, when you look at the box score, is like baffling from the first contest. So in a way, I think Texas should do what they did, but they just gotta find a way to score basketball. Madison Booker can't shoot the ball like she did in that first game. Make some threes, that'll go a long way. You just made 9 of them. You don't need 9 of them. Make 5 of them. That would be a great step. That's asking for a lot, I recognize, because they usually make like 1, but
yeah, I mean, they shot the ball 28 more times. I can't see that happening a second time, but I can see them shooting the ball 16, 17 more times. They rebound half their misses. They just didn't make anything.
Yeah.
Rory Harmon's due. Madison Booker, I don't think is going to shoot 3 of 19 again. No. Give me Texas in the upset. I am going to regret this next Friday when South Carolina does what South Carolina has done for 2.5 months now since UCLA, and they waltz in and do what they do and win. But I will take Texas.
Yeah, I'm not picking against South Carolina until it happens. Sorry. But I don't think this is going to look like the first one. Like, I don't think Texas loses this by 20 points. I still think South Carolina wins it, but I think it's close.
You're probably right. But you know what? Why not? I'm in a mood. Why not? Texas is going to win. LSU, Tennessee. First game basically decided at the buzzer. Going before last night, I thought LSU would win. Not comfortably, but I don't think it would be as close. I want to see how Tennessee responds after finally, like, they got that emotional win at home. Quick turnaround a couple of days later. LSU, I know they're good. Like last night, it's just kind of a regression backwards of, like, we don't need to mess around with Missouri for 3 quarters. Another game where I don't know what's going to happen. Like, what I thought going in was, before last night, was LSU probably by 8 or 10 points. I don't think I believe that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm interested to see like what Tennessee does now that they have the confidence of like getting the big win underneath them. And I didn't think they like played great against UConn. I thought UConn like took them out of. I mean, the one thing UConn did do well is like they didn't turn the ball over. Like they took them out of the stuff that Tennessee wants to do and shoot the ball well, and they still won. So I think that's a huge confidence boost for Tennessee, and I'm interested to see how that translates against LSU. And then LSU just like, they gotta stop doing this. Like, we're not gonna play basketball for 3 quarters and then win the 4th quarter, because it's gonna bite them at some point.
Yeah, now you're getting to the time of year where you got to bring it every game.
Right. And at this point too, like, it's like, if you keep doing this, like, I don't know that's a habit you can break when it's still happening in February.
Right. Like, you are who you are. Oklahoma will turn the ball over. Texas, last night aside, like, isn't going to magically become the Warriors.
Yeah.
Like, you are who you are for the most part. Notre Dame Cal is technically a top 25 game. Good luck stopping Hannah Hidalgo.
Yeah.
Unless Cal makes a billion threes, I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about. Florida State, NC State. I'm looking forward to this on Sunday. NC State will be able to get some, but Florida State's feeling it a little bit. They've won 5 straight, like all business-like. It's against the bottom of the ACC, minus the buzzer beater at North Carolina. But like, the defense is getting better. I'm a little high on Florida State, which I've been before and been burned, but I'm not on Florida State.
But I do think, like, when you have like a player like Tanaya Latson, you can never count them out, right? Like, that puts your floor at a certain level. So I do think, because you have that, like, I'm intrigued on this game. I think they need more from everyone else too, because right, we're talking about a trio of guards at NC State that can score the basketball well, and we know that Florida State's probably not going to do a great job slowing them down. So you've got to keep up with that. But I think this will be an interesting one. I think I'd probably still pick NC State, because I do think like they are, we've talked about before, like, look a lot better. They're riding kind of high right now, but at the same time, I think it's gonna be close.
I mean, if you sign me up right now for a couple of 30 pieces for Latson and James, sign me up.
Great game.
Give me the popcorn.
This will be a fun one.
Yes, absolutely. And the Florida State defense, if you're looking for reasons for hope, Clemson, Miami aren't the cream of the crop. Neither cracked 70. BC barely did, but Florida State scored 104. It's better. Still not great. It's better. And that's maybe all Florida State needs in an ACC that outside of the top team, you just don't really know. And there's not that much separation. Quick hit Sunday, Oregon, UCLA. Ducks, nice win against Michigan State. They got blown out by 30 at Michigan. Handily lost last night to Maryland. They're still safely in the field, probably. And I don't think they're going to beat UCLA. Just, let's not have 3 straight blowout losses after a nice win over Michigan State. Washington, Maryland, last chance for the Huskies, I think. They're already with 9 losses. I don't know if do you have them anywhere near your field?
I had them bottom of the first 4 out, so they're still hanging around, but
that's a lot of losses.
Yeah.
And that's a tall task. How much does Mississippi State need to beat Alabama on Sunday?
I'm looking for them. Bear with me. I don't see them on my board. I know they're there somewhere.
Here, let me
I think they're okay. Yeah, I have them at 7 right now. I mean, obviously, it doesn't hurt. I forget what they have left. I think a lot of what I look at right now, too, like in terms of what a team actually needs, is like it's not so much this one game, but what's left after it. Because like if they have the bottom of the SEC and are going to pick up 3 more wins, they're fine. They've got to play South Carolina, LSU, and
they play
Tennessee. Then they might need it.
Bama, Vandy, Texas are their hardest remaining games. Florida, A&M, Auburn, the others. So 7 losses. You would expect them to, if they take care of business in the 3 non-ranked games, you're looking at 11 losses at most. If they lose every ranked game plus the SEC tournament, that's 11 losses.
Yeah, I think they're probably okay, but you do yourself a favor by winning against either Alabama or Vandy. Pick up one of those.
Fair enough. Tuesday, Baylor, West Virginia. You're looking at 2 top 15 defenses. I think West Virginia really needs this for a hosting standpoint. Even with smothering K-State, that's not a quad 1 win. You know this because you said it earlier. 0 quad 1 wins this year for West Virginia. 0. 2 other teams in the top 30 of the net can say that. Baylor, someone's going to pick one up, and Minnesota. And neither of those teams are in line to host. So I think West Virginia needs it. Baylor doesn't. They're just chilling.
Yeah. If West Virginia wants any chance of hosting, they need to pick up a Q1 win here and probably another one too. I just like to be a host without any Q1 wins. It's not happening. With only 1, I think it's still an uphill battle. I just think that we've seen the committee, as much as they value not having bad losses, they value good wins too. And if you don't have the good wins, I think it's hard to get the right to host. You're gonna make the field, but the right to host is.
This is only West Virginia's 7th game outside of the bottom 2 quads, period. 0-2 Q1, 2-2 Q2. By the way, I got multiple questions last week about, we just kind of throw out the terms quad 1, quad 2. Oh. Megan knows this for the uninitiated. So quads this year. We aren't just like making this up. This is what the NCAA uses, the selection committee uses. I'm not going to go into what every game is basically. If you're playing a team in the net 1 through 25 at home, it's Q1. 26 to 55, it's Q2. From there, the next chunk of teams, quad 3. And they're quads. The bottom 250 teams are all quad 4. So it's not really quads. They're just 4 segments. And then it gets a little, if you're neutral, it goes from 1 to 25 to 1 to 35. If you're on the road, it goes from 1 to 40. So basically, quality of competition. If you're on the road and you're playing a top 40 team, it's a quad 1 game. If you're at home, you're playing a top 25 team, it's a quad 1 game, if that makes sense. So if you're uninitiated, we just throw these terms out, and we have for the better part of a month. We're not just making it up, we promise. And we're also not judging. I think that Louisville is a quad 1 game. No, it's not. And I'm not making that up. That is a statistical fact.
Right.
A little bit of that. Okay. What is a quad 1 game is Thursday. USC, UCLA for reals on the dock this time. It is at Galen Center. USC is hosting. What do you take away? Because right now, I don't really see a reason to believe UCLA is not going to win.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of like we say with South Carolina, like my assumption right now is that UCLA is going to win pretty much every game they play.
Yeah.
That said, I still think this is the highest level game that UCLA has played since that South Carolina game. So
Yeah.
I guess there's that. Like, we haven't seen them play a team that's in that kind of. I don't think UCLA or USC is like the top tier. Like, I think that's South Carolina, UCLA, Notre Dame. But like, I do think they're right there. So it's the toughest game they've played in a while, and we've seen them be a little vulnerable against Ohio State. So I guess there's enough to like think this is going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how they handle Juju. I feel like we haven't really seen Lauren Betts play against another great post player in quite a while as well. So I'm interested for that matchup as well. Her with Kiki F, and obviously they've played against each other before when Kiki and with each other too. So when Kiki was at Stanford, so I think that matchup I'm really intrigued by. And then for USC too, right? Like we talked about the Iowa loss. It seems like something's off. Obviously, a really good way to quiet all that would be to beat UCLA.
Yeah, honestly, I think if they just go back and look at the first half against UConn, that's kind of your game plan where Kiki didn't have a great scoring game, but like monster on the glass. And you're not going to be a monster on the glass against UCLA. But if you can just hold your own against Betts and like neutralize her, that's a win. Make some threes. Get your freshmen. No one needs to score 20 outside of Juju and maybe Kiki. But like if you can get 8 points from Kennedy Smith, if you can get 8 points off the bench from Howell, night and day difference for USC. Because this is one of the rare instances, like, again, apples and oranges, because they're very different positions, very different players. Rare instance, USC doesn't just automatically have the best player on the floor.
Yeah.
So I just want to see. I just kind of poo-pooed USC's chances. Obviously, they have a chance. I think Sunday or Saturday, whatever the heck they play Ohio State, I think that'll be telling of how are they going to feel going into Thursday against UCLA. Because they're coming in losing 2 out of 3. Don't like their chances. If they come in and, smoke Ohio State, then all right. Vibes are better. Like the vibes. Kentucky, Texas on next Thursday as well. I think just can Texas stop Amore? They have the rare defender who might be able to in Rory Harmon. I think that's just the difference. If Amore goes off, Kentucky has a shot. If Harmon neutralizes her, I don't think they got any chance.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes because obviously they won the Vanderbilt game last night handedly, but I felt like for a lot of that game, Michaela Blakes was able to have her way, which I think is interesting against the Kentucky defense or Texas defense. So I'm interested to see how that matchup goes.
All right. The reason you've all listened for 57 and a half minutes. A10 talk. St. Joe's hosting Richmond. George Mason and their 3 teams in the hunt for the tournament, all riding decently long win streaks. We don't need to break down the game. Give me their resumes because I have just some notes jotted down, but you tell me where things lie right now.
Yeah, so I think regardless of resume, I think Richmond is the best. Well, also considering the resume, but I think Richmond has the best team, but also the best resume. They've got the problem with both Richmond and St. Joe's. The Q4 losses are going to kill them, but Richmond has some wins to balance it out. They've got a Q1 win. They're 1-5 in Q1, but there's a win there, which I think for
Richmond.
Yeah,
Richmond's 2-3 in Q1.
Oh, did they beat someone in the last? Or someone must have moved.
Probably.
Since I'm looking at my bracket from Tuesday.
Yes. So 2-3 against Quad 1, 2-0 against Quad 2, 2 Quad 4 losses.
Okay. Yeah. So the Quad 4 losses are killing them. Also was looking at the wrong row clearly, but anyway, the Quad 4 losses are killing them, but 2 Quad 1 wins. I think this might be a tournament team, regardless of if they win
if they
A10.
go all the way to the A10 championship and lose. Unbeaten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then George Mason and St. Joe's just keep hanging around the bubble. And I should look at the most recent net because I'm probably going to say the wrong numbers again because I'm looking at the old one. But St. Joe's, the 2 Quad 4 losses again are hurting them. They had 1 win on last time I looked, so that does help. Yep. And then Mason has the benefit of not having bad losses, but they haven't picked up a Quad 1 win. So I actually think that St. Joe's might have the better chance ending up in right now. That said, I believe some of these games between Mason, Richmond, St. Joe's all have potential to be quad 1, quad 2 wins.
The only quad 1 opportunity would be the teams playing Richmond, and that's if Richmond's at their place. So St. Joe's, if they beat Richmond, that is a quad 1 win.
Okay.
Unless Richmond falls a little bit. At home, it's 1. On the road, I lied. That'd be a quad 2 win for St. Joe's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If Richmond goes on the road, if Richmond hosts someone, if Richmond hosts someone, that'd be a quad 1 win.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Spiders have the most losses. Bad one at Fordham last month, highest in the net. St. Joe's beat George Mason, but you mentioned the 2 Q4 losses. Mm-hmm. George Mason's only 3 losses: Maryland, Richmond, and St. Joe's. Their best win is Wake Forest. That's not a good ACC team.
Oh.
Who on earth is their quad 1 win?
George Mason doesn't have one. St. Joe's does.
There you go. Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. George Mason's best win is. I'm looking right now. Wake, Georgetown. Yeah,
that's not great.
Those are my answers: Wake or Georgetown.
Yeah, I think Mason has an uphill battle. Unless you win the AT tournament, then you could go ahead. Yes. But I think, I think, quite frankly, the best thing that's going to happen for the A10 is that Richmond kind of wins out mostly, and then you get to the A10 tournament, and either St. Joe's or George Mason beats Richmond in the final game, and then I think you get a 2-bit A10.
Well, there you go. Next Thursday, we're all going to be locked into USC-UCLA. And Megan's going to be loading up either. Do you pay for Flow Sports still?
I don't.
Then she's going to be going on YouTube and hoping someone streams that game by less than legal means. And she'll be watching St. Joe's Richmond. So, Megan, enjoy that. We'll talk to you next week.